You have seen it 100 times. A woman in a ring-lit bathroom dragging thick yellow oil across her cheekbones, whispering that this bottle replaced her Botox. The caption promises 10 years off in 30 days, nature's Botox. And somewhere in your kitchen or your medicine cabinet or already sitting on your face right now is that same castor oil. I need you to stop and hear this before you apply another drop. Because what that oil is actually doing to your skin is not what the video told you. And for some of you, it is quietly doing harm. Let me start by telling you what is real about that video because I do not want to insult your intelligence. When those women film themselves in the morning, their skin genuinely does look smoother, softer, almost lit from within. That part is not a trick. You could apply castor oil tonight and wake up tomorrow and see something in the mirror that looks like a small miracle. That is exactly why the trend spread. That is exactly why intelligent, careful women are pouring a laxative onto their faces at bedtime and reporting results. But I want you to understand the mechanism because everything in dermatology depends on the mechanism. Botox is an injection. A needle passes through the top layer of your skin, past the second layer, past the fat, and delivers a purified toxin directly into the muscle. That toxin temporarily blocks the nerve signal that tells the muscle to contract. When the muscle stops pulling, the skin above it stops folding. That is why the wrinkle softens. It is a neuromuscular event, not a skin event. Now look at your face. Between your muscle and the outside world, you have your fat pad, your dermis, and your epidermis. The epidermis alone is a stacked wall of dead cells sealed together with lipids. A molecule of castor oil is heavy and large. It sits on top of that wall. Some of it seeps between the very outermost cells. It does not, under any physical circumstance we understand, cross your skin and reach the muscle underneath. It cannot. The pathway does not exist. So if the oil never reaches the muscle, and the muscle is where wrinkles are made, why does your skin look different in the morning? Here is the honest answer. Castor oil is one of the most occlusive substances in your kitchen. Think of it like a sheet of clear plastic wrap laid gently over a brick wall. That plastic does not repair the wall. It does not add new bricks, but it traps every drop of moisture the wall was quietly losing to the air. Your skin loses water constantly, all day, all night, through a process called transepidermal water loss. When you seal it, the water stays. The cells at the surface swell slightly. The tiny creases fill in. The light bounces off a smoother, wetter surface. And you look for a few hours, exactly like the woman in the video. This is the first thing I need you to sit with. The morning smoothness is real. It is just not what you were told it was. It is hydration, temporarily held in place by a film of oil. It is not muscle relaxation. It is not new collagen. It is not tissue remodeling. It is water, and it will leave the moment you wash your face. I know some of you are already pushing back at me. You are thinking, but I have used it for 3 weeks and my lines really do look softer, not just in the morning. And that is a fair thing to say because there is something else happening in castor oil that I do not want to dismiss. And it is the reason this trend has just enough truth in it to spread. Castor oil is about 90% ricinoleic acid, a fatty acid that is genuinely rare in nature. And ricinoleic acid has documented anti-inflammatory activity in the scientific literature, going back decades. Anti-inflammatory. Read that word carefully. It does not mean anti-aging. It means it can calm redness, quiet small irritations, and reduces a certain kind of puffiness in reactive skin. And here is where it gets interesting for the mirror. A great deal of what we perceive as tired, aged, or lined skin, especially around the eyes and cheeks, is actually low grade inflammation and mild swelling that exaggerates every crease. Quiet the inflammation, and the face genuinely looks softer. Not younger in any structural sense, softer, calmer, less puffy, and your brain standing in front of the mirror looking for hope reads that as 10 years gone. So already we have two things happening at once, both real, neither of them Botox, occlusion trapping water, ricinoleic acid quieting inflammation. Together, they can make a face look genuinely better in the short term. And this is where the trend becomes dangerous because those two harmless sounding mechanisms mask what else the oil is doing underneath. Because for a certain kind of skin, for a lot of you watching this, that same thick film is not neutral. It is not just sitting there being helpful, it is sealing your pores shut with your own sebum and the ordinary bacteria that live on your face trapped inside. It is warming the follicle, it is creating the exact environment that dermatologists see week after week in patients who come into the clinic bewildered because their skin was fine and then very suddenly it was not. And here is the question I want you carrying into what comes next. If the plumping is water and the softening is inflammation calming down, what is the oil doing to the deeper layers of your face while you sleep in it? Because the answer is not the same for everyone. And most of you watching me right now have no real idea which category you are in. Let me tell you what happens inside a follicle when you seal it for 8 hours a night. With something as heavy as castor oil, your pores are not passive holes. They are living channels lined with oil producing glands populated by bacteria that belong there, breathing out sebum in a continuous flow that keeps the skin balanced. When that flow meets air, most of it evaporates. When it meets a thick, occlusive film, it does not go anywhere. It backs up, it thickens, and it turns into exactly the material that acne is made of. For someone with dry skin, low sebum production, and a calm, non reactive complexion, this might mean nothing. The gland was barely producing. There is little to trap. The oil sits, the water stays in, and morning arrives without event. That is the woman in the video. But for someone whose glands run active, whose T-zone shines by lunchtime, whose jawline has ever produced a single hormonal breakout in adult life, that same film is not benign. It is a lid on a pressure cooker. And what dermatologists see in the weeks after castor oil trends spike on social media follows a pattern so predictable we could set a clock by it. Deep, tender bumps along the jawline, small clusters of closed comedones across the forehead and hairline, sudden painful cysts where nothing had grown for years, and the patient sitting in the chair says the same thing every time. I do not understand. I only started using something natural. Natural is one of the most misleading words in cosmetics. Poison ivy is natural. Botulinum toxin, the actual active ingredient in Botox, is one of the most natural substances on Earth. Natural tells you nothing about how a molecule behaves on human skin. Now, let me widen the pattern because acne is not the only cost. Some of the most striking reactions we see from castor oil are not on the cheeks at all. They are around the eyes. People apply it to their lashes and brows because another trend promised it would grow hair. What arrives instead, days later, is a swollen, itching red ring of skin from cheekbone to eyelid. That is contact dermatitis, an immune reaction to something the skin has decided it does not want. The eye area is thinner, more permeable, and more reactive than anywhere else on your face. It punishes mistakes first. And there is a third pattern, quieter than the others. The occlusive film does not only trap moisture and sebum, it traps heat. It traps the ordinary microbiome, the community of bacteria and yeast that lives on healthy skin, against a warm, wet surface with no airflow. That is a perfect environment for the yeast species we call Malassezia to overgrow. And Malassezia overgrowth causes those small, uniform, itchy bumps across the forehead and chest that so many people mistake for stubborn acne and try to treat with more oil. It gets worse. They are feeding it. So now come back with me to that plastic sheet over the brick wall. When I first showed you that image, it was reassuring. The wall is intact. The plastic is holding water against it. Nothing is being damaged. But look at the wall again now. Some of these bricks are cracked, some of the mortar is missing. And when you seal plastic against a cracked wall in a warm room, you do not preserve it. You grow mold in the crevices. You soften the mortar. You trap whatever was already trying to escape. This is what most castor oil users never see, because it happens slowly, in the layer just below what the mirror can show them. The surface looks smoother than ever. Underneath, the barrier is being subtly reshaped. Weeks pass. Then one morning, the film comes off and something is wrong. The skin is more sensitive than it used to be. Products that never stung now sting. A little redness lingers. A small cluster of bumps refuses to clear. And the natural response, the trained response of anyone who has been on the receiving end of skincare marketing is to reach for another product to fix it. I need you to hear this next part clearly because it corrects something I said gently in the beginning. I told you the softening of fine lines was real, and it is. But there is a hard, unsentimental distinction inside dermatology that almost never makes it onto social media. There are two very different things people call wrinkles. One is a dehydration line, a crepe-like fine texture that appears when the outermost skin has lost water. It plumps out the moment moisture returns. It is temporary. It is superficial. It responds to almost any occlusive. The other is a true wrinkle, a fold created by decades of collagen and elastin breakdown in the dermis, deepened by every muscle contraction of every smile and squint you have ever made. That wrinkle is a structural change in the deeper tissue of your face. No topical oil, no matter how heavy, no matter how ancient the tradition, no matter how many followers the person selling it has ever been shown in a controlled study to reverse it. Not castor, not rosehip, not argan, not the one you saw last week. When castor oil users say their lines faded, they are almost always describing the first kind, the temporary kind. And when the oil goes, when they travel and skip the routine for a week, the lines come back exactly as they were. Because the wall was never rebuilt, only the plastic sheet was different. And this is the reversal I want you sitting with as we go into what dermatology actually recommends instead. The oil that flattered one woman's dry cheeks for a month is the same oil quietly incubating another woman's cystic acne along her jaw. The trend is not working or failing. It is doing both at the same time to different people and telling neither of them which one they are. So let me tell you what actually works, because you deserve to know what dermatology recommends for the exact fear that drove you to castor oil in the first place. You are looking in the mirror. You are seeing lines that were not there 5 years ago. You want them softer. That is a reasonable human thing to want, and there are real answers for it. The first is the ingredient the entire field has been quietly circling around for 50 years. Retinoids, prescription tretinoin, and its over-the-counter cousin retinol are the only topical molecules with decades of controlled evidence showing they can actually increase collagen production in the deeper layer of your skin, not seal water in, not calm redness, rebuild. Slowly, over months, they signal your cells to lay down new collagen, thin the outer wall of dead cells, speed the turnover underneath, and change the structure of a wrinkle from the inside. That is a mechanism. That is the wall being repaired brick by brick. The second is boring, and it is the single most powerful anti-aging tool on Earth. Broad spectrum sunscreen every morning applied like your face depends on it, because it does. Ultraviolet radiation is responsible for the overwhelming majority of what you and I call aged skin. The lines, the sagging, the sunspots, the loss of firmness, the crepe on the cheek. Most of it is written into your face by afternoons you barely remember. Sunscreen is not glamorous. It does not go viral. Nobody films themselves rubbing in a nickel-sized dot of zinc oxide in slow motion under a ring light. But if you use nothing else for the rest of your life, use that. The third layer, more measured, is peptides. Certain peptide sequences have real data behind them for supporting collagen and elastin over time. A well-formulated vitamin C in the morning does useful work against the daily oxidative damage that ages skin quietly. And when someone genuinely wants the smoothing that only muscle relaxation can produce, that is a conversation with a board-certified dermatologist about actual Botox or about lasers or about the procedures that were designed to do what topicals physically cannot. Now, let me tell you where castor oil legitimately fits into a routine, because I do not want to leave you with the impression that this bottle is poison. It is not. For the right person, applied the right way, castor oil is a useful, cheap, honest occlusive. If your skin is dry, non-acne prone, not reactive around the eyes, and you already have an active treatment underneath, a thin layer of castor oil on top of that treatment, 3 or 4 nights a week, can hold your other products against the skin and reduce transepidermal water loss overnight. That is called slugging in the community. It is a real technique. It has a real place. But hear the words I am using. On top of an active treatment, not instead of one. Castor oil is the plastic sheet, not the bricks. It can protect the wall while somebody else is building it. It cannot do the building. So here is what I want you to do tomorrow morning. Walk into your bathroom, pick up that bottle of castor oil. If you have acne-prone skin, put it down. If your T-zone shines by afternoon, put it down. If you have ever had a cyst along your jawline, put it down. If you have been applying it to your lashes and your eyelids have felt tight or itchy, put it down and do not apply it there again. If you gave it to your teenage daughter because it was natural, take it out of her bathroom. Teenage skin is at the peak of sebum production. That film is not a gift to her face. If you're in the small group who genuinely tolerates it, use it as I described. A patch test first, 72 hours behind the ear, watching for any redness or itch before you ever put it near your face. Never on active breakouts, never near broken skin, never as your sunscreen, never as your only strategy. And now, come back with me to that woman in the ring-lit bathroom. Watch her drag the oil across her cheekbones one more time. The whisper of nature's Botox in the caption. Look at her skin in the aftershot glowing under the light. You know now what you are actually seeing. You are seeing a film of oil, holding water against her surface, calming a small amount of inflammation, catching light in a flattering way for exactly as long as it takes her to wash her face in the morning. It is not Botox. It is not new collagen. It is not tissue remodeling. It is a beautiful temporary illusion. Nature's Botox is a marketing phrase. What castor oil actually is, honestly, is nature's occlusive, a good one. Sometimes helpful, sometimes harmful, always working on the surface and never below it. And confusing those two things costs you money, costs you months of misdiagnosed breakouts, and costs you the years of prevention you could have been doing instead. The wall behind your face is being built and torn down every day of your life, whether you help it or not. Retinoids help build it. Sunscreen protects it. Peptides support it. A dermatologist can guide the process for your specific skin. Castor oil, at its best, holds a little plastic sheet against the finished work overnight. That is the honest ceiling of what it does. So here is the question I want you carrying into tomorrow morning. When you wash the oil off and the film is gone and you look at your bare face in the honest light of your bathroom, is the skin underneath actually different than it was a month ago? Or did you just spend 30 days watching a beautiful, temporary film disappear down the drain while the real work of your face went undone? Ask your mirror, then decide what deserves to go on your skin tonight.